Finally, after 6 years of Brexit impact and Brexit damage, we're finally starting to actually make the right moves. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, this morning there was an announcement from the Prime Minister that the UK and the EU have finally come to some sort of trade deal agreement. But before we get into today's video, it will be massively appreciated if you drop a like on the video. It helps a lot. And also, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, subscribe. Let's get into it.
There's not much optimism that I'm sensing through the inbox at the moment. So I do want to hear that perspective. If you are optimistic, get in touch and tell me. Barry Gardner, I suspect you're optimistic.
Well, look, all trade deals are a balance. You have to give stuff, they have to give stuff. And it's a matter of what you want. If you remember back to the Brexit debate, Michelle, those people who are arguing for Brexit have in effect got what they said at the time, because you'll remember one of their arguments was, look, we actually have the same regulations about our food standards and sanitary and phytosanitary controls as the EU at the moment. So there's no way, the Brexiteers used to say, that they will impose border controls on the stuff that we want to export to Europe. Well, unfortunately, they did. But now what we've managed to negotiate is saying to them, look, we have the same regulations. Why don't we drop the border controls?
That is such an amazing point, because in the first place, the EU and the UK has been in the EU for so long, right? For over 40, 50 years now, I'm assuming. The level of the standard level and the quality control and the regulations when it comes to importing goods from other countries to the UK, it's the same as the EU, because the UK has been in the EU for so long. It wasn't changed. After Brexit, the UK didn't change the standards of food that needed to come to this country. It's still the same thing as the EU anyways. But then leaving the EU meant now there are barriers in the way, there are difficulties when it comes to taking stuff from this country to another country. So the only thing that we got out of that deal when it comes to quality control and regulation is just more difficulty moving stuff to the EU countries, because we're not part of it now. Now they have to individually make a deal with you. So it totally makes no sense. Why would you rather make regulations the same and then make it difficult when you could just make a deal and then remove the restrictions, and then you just keep the same regulation anyways, because you've been together for so long? It totally makes no sense.
And the EU's agreed to that, and that's going to be worth millions to our exporters, because one of the things that the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee did after Brexit was to actually bring in all the exporters who were saying, we're having terrible time because our langoustine are being blocked at the border. They then go off before we can get them into French restaurants. Our trade is being blocked and the food is going off. Now,
that's the problem right there. That's literally the problem. Moving stuff from this country to other countries has been so much more difficult now. And it's totally pointless when you're keeping the same regulation and food standard when it comes to the food coming to this country. That's just a lose-lose situation.
All of that won't happen now. That is a great plus.
Oh, Barry Gardner, yes, that's fine. We can get rid of some of these checks as you're suggesting, but people at home will be shouting out, but hold on a second, because the flip side of that was that essentially now we have to bow down to their rules, their regulations, and we don't essentially have a veto on what those are.
But we don't, because we haven't joined the customs union. So at any stage, let's say the...
Why don't they align with our rules? Why did we have to match theirs?
Well, they have.
It's a trade deal. You have to follow certain rules that they give, and then they will have to follow certain rules that you give. That's what a deal is. It isn't just one part, and then they can just unanimously decide everything. Both countries are deciding what that both sides will do.
Rules are actually the same. That's the point. So we are aligned, and we're simply saying because we're aligned, we don't need to do this. But in the future, at any stage, if the EU were to suddenly lower their requirements on food regulations, we could say, no, sorry, we're actually going to now come out of this because you've changed the rules of the game.
Do you share that optimism, Sarah? You?
This is absolute nonsense. I mean, Barry's talking about langoustine and getting them across the border. Well, I can tell you that my constituents, do not have enough money in their pocket to be buying langoustine or being in complete... No, you've had your say, Barry, my turn. This is an absolute betrayal of Brexit. It'll come to no surprise to anyone watching this programme that I was an avid Brexiteer. But Keir Starmer is taking us on a slow march back into Europe. He is absolutely betraying the will of the British people. Keir Starmer has called this a win-win deal. It's a lose-lose deal.
She's so wrong on so many levels. It's actually absurd how wrong she actually is. The idea that, like, this is betraying the will of the people. Which people? The people that voted for Brexit, that was 10 years ago. People that were 15 couldn't vote at that time, but now they will be 25. That means everyone from 25 to 16 years old, that's a new crop of people that should have a say, that you should be representing their own will. Like, they should have democratic say whether or not they want to be part of this deal or not. Like, the whole idea that this is betrayal, it's like, that's what democracy is. We vote for something, and then when it clearly isn't working, we vote to, like, remove it. That's the powerful nature of democracy. The idea that you vote once and then that's it. If that's the case, then we literally wouldn't have a general election every 4 years. We just vote once and then that's it for the history of time. You wouldn't vote again. Like, this idea that it betrays democracy to move back, it's like, that's the whole point of democracy. You can vote and change things.
He sold out the British workers with his Indian trade deal. He sold out the farmers with his US.
How can you say this? That's the whole point of Brexit, right? That's literally the whole point. The whole point of Brexit is to make deals with individual countries, right? Individual institutions. And now the UK is actually doing that, taking advantage of Brexit. They're like, how could you do this? How can you make a deal with them? How can you make it? It's like, that's the point of Brexit. Like, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you leave Brexit, you make a deal with everyone individually. Now we have left. Now we're making a deal with everyone. It's like, how dare you? It's like, that was what you voted for in the first place.
Trade deal, and now he has completely sold out the British fishing industry. It is finished with this deal, let alone the fact that we will become closer aligned once again to the European Court of Justice, which we absolutely do not want. We have the best courts and the laws in the land, in this country. We do not want to be aligned closer to them again.
Who is we? She keeps saying that, who is we? Remember the point I made earlier, 25-year-olds to 16-year-olds, they're part of the democracy system now, okay? Or whatever the minimum age voting is, right? Everyone from 25 to the age where it starts to be, where you actually get access to be able to vote in this country. Those are new crops of people. Just imagine the amount of people that actually is. They are the new crop of people. You don't even know if these people actually wanted it. This idea that it's betraying the will of, like, it's not betraying anything. People want change. Most people that voted for Brexit, most of them have literally decided, oh, you know what, this probably isn't actually a good idea. And also the fishing industry is talking about, the deal, part of the deal is that the deal that is right now, it's going to be extended for the next 12 years. So right now, there's literally no changes to the fishing industry. Nothing at all. The deal at the end of Brexit, when it happened, is still the deal that's going to be it now for the next 12 years. Where is the betrayal there? It's nothing actually changes.
And all this talk about letting lorries through the border with Barry's langoustine on it without being checked, well, that is just dragging us back towards EU regulation and checks that we don't want and red tape that we don't want.
Another aspect that'll get people talking is defence.
Yes.
This whole access to this rearmament fund.
Yes.
Where are you on this? I mean, I've got to say, we don't even know the costs of a lot of this stuff. All of that detail, of course, will come out in due course.
Look, I just don't understand what part of this deal is good for us. Our defence industry is leading in the world in terms of its technology and its ability.
I'm sorry, what? What is she talking about? Which? It can't be this country. There's no way that's what she's talking about.
To create, to create weapons at the end of the day. Why are we having to pay millions, if not billions, to have access to bid for contracts? We're not talking about being, having any favourable treatment. We're just talking about having access to bid for contracts, for arms contracts. Now, the fact is, we are leading the way. So surely people should be paying us to be bidding for our...
What the hell is she talking about? Well, first of all, the UK is absolutely not leading the world when it comes to defense and security. That's absolute no chance. That's the one. Number two, when you actually look at it, right, the UK relies on NATO defense, right, NATO security, which is primarily America, right. Clearly, right now, the Republican Party, they're getting less and less involved when it comes to the conflict happening in Europe, right. that kind of rhetoric, obviously you've got to take initiative. Okay, what is the solution to that? If America doesn't provide security, what is it that you actually do? Okay, you make sure you don't get left alone, because if America is not involved in NATO and then you're not part of the EU, all of a sudden UK is isolated and all alone. And with Russia continually assaulting different countries, you have to take into consideration what is it that you actually have to do. This rearmament plan that it's part of the trade deal, right, with the EU, it's to make sure the UK is actually in the same boat when it comes to providing security, stop any threat, right? Is to make sure, like, to actually create like a solidarity between the UK and the EU and all the other European countries to make sure the UK isn't actually left alone. That's literally the main point of the deal. This idea that, oh, it's such a loss, like, no, it's not a loss. Something had to be done. We can't rely on the security of America anymore. You have to literally be with the EU now. You have to create the army of Europe. To be able to do that, you need to be working with the EU. This idea that it's a silly deal or it's a silly decision to make is so weird, because if America is not providing security, what, you're just going to get left alone? Like,
contracts. Why are we giving in? This is no deal. This is another example of trying to fool the UK public. The UK public are not stupid. They know that we have some of the best arms productions in the world. Why are we paying to even have the opportunity to win these deals?
Barry?
No, I think it's about co-production and what we do. And if you look at some of the best weaponry that we have been part of creating, is when we are corresponding with other countries and manufacturing together. And we will put part of the components in there. They will put part of the components in there, and then we sell it and we get a proportionate share of it. So it's our contribution to what we will be producing together.
Which, Barry, will have to pay millions to even get the opportunity to contribute. So that is no deal.
Well, I'm sorry, if it means, as Chopper actually said on the programme, that this is worth potentially £9 billion to our defence industries, then it's certainly one that the defence industries themselves, you said, well, look what the fishermen are saying. Let's look at what the defence industries are saying.
Yes.
They're saying we've been crying out for this. We were excluded. We're now back in the frame. We're going to be able to produce. We're going to be able to actually get the financial
It's not
benefit.
the defence industries that will have to be paying the millions, if not billions, to even get the opportunity to go down this road. It'll be, yet again, the British taxpayer sold out by the Labour government.
They are the ones who will get the jobs in those defence industries.
Yep.
They're the ones that will get the benefits
Yep.
of the tax that those industries will be paying.
Yep.
And it's worth a huge amount to this country.
Well, we'll see, but I would disagree with that wholeheartedly.
why would you disagree? Well, all of a sudden you wouldn't listen to people actually working anymore. Like, you want to listen to the fishermen, right? But you're not going to listen to the people that are actually going to work on this and security, right? So, okay, sure, whatever you say.
I still don't understand why we have to pay to bid on these contracts.
When you say, by the way,
We have to do that because every other country has to. That's the whole point.
so this will be worth a huge amount. Just put some context on this. Apparently, all of this that we know so far will add around 0.3% to GDP over a 15-year period. Youth mobility, that was another thing that was discussed at length. Again, shy on the detail. What, if anything, is going to happen? Caps, all the rest of it. We still don't really know.
Again, this is another example of Keir Starmer taking us right back into Europe. The borders are going to open under this.
What are you talking? We had Brexit and we had the most amount of immigrants and the most amount of migrants coming into this country anyways. So clearly it isn't about being close to the EU. When we were part of the EU, there was less amount of people coming into the country. Since we left the EU, there have been hundreds of thousands, close to millions every year coming into the country. So clearly it has nothing to do with having a deal with the EU. How are they not seeing this? Actually, like, it's sad.
Youth mobility scheme, which is 18 to 30-year-olds. Well, I don't know. I would never call a 30-year-old a youth, but they are adults. The fact is we are opening the doors potentially to 80 million people. 80 million people would be eligible under this scheme. You might laugh, Barry, it's a fact. 80 million people would be eligible under this scheme to come into this country, to use our health service, to use
No.
Is that really all they think about? That's it. That's really all they think about. They don't actually think, oh, people come to this country can actually help the part of the economy that's clearly like there doesn't have enough people working in it. There needs more labor force. They don't look at it that way. They just look at, oh my God, people come to this country using our health service. It's like they're not gonna have access to these things. Like it's
Our dentists.
That's completely wrong.
Claim benefits.
It's totally
to
wrong.
claim benefits. How can they possibly claim benefits?
bring their families. We cannot sustain this. You are
Bring their
opening the
families. Oh my God, Jesus
doors
Christ.
to Europe again.
Sorry, this is scaremongering, and let me explain why. Because actually, the youth mobility scheme, we've got precedents, right? We've got dozens of these schemes already in operation, over 12 schemes already in operation. They are capped in numbers. So the idea that 80 million...
This one's not capped in numbers.
This one doesn't exist yet.
But there's no guarantee that there's going to be a cap in numbers.
We know... Well, all you can do is you can say, this is how these schemes operate. You're pretending that these schemes operate in a different way. So let me explain. There will be, at the current rate of all the schemes that there are caps in numbers. They cannot avail themselves of our health service. They have to pay a health surcharge. They cannot avail themselves...
They don't, Barry.
Sorry.
Of course they do. What do you think? Why can you say they don't? What, they just walk in and just give you a number, boom, that's it. They get... How stupid... These people are so stupid.
They don't. They're not turned away by the National Health Service.
I'm sorry.
Anyone that goes and turns up...
They pay a health surcharge in order to get the visa.
This idea they're going to get benefits and they get health, it's like, that's not true. You can't just come into this country and start gaining benefits. That's not how it works. Okay, you go ask people that actually have to pay for these things. You go ask people that have been there for 3-4 months. Ask them, what benefit are you getting? They would let you know it's extremely difficult. They're not going to have access to these things. They only come in for a year, education, work, and then they get to leave. That's it. The visa runs out. That's it.
Right? It is a visa system. It is a capped visa system. And Reform UK and nobody else, the Conservatives or anybody, Conservatives initiated many of the schemes anyway, but nobody has ever said of any of the other schemes that they're operating imperfectly, that they shouldn't be operating. And in fact, more of our young people go to work and live abroad.
Thank you. It's easier now for anyone from the UK to actually be able to go to any other country because it's going to be so much easier now.
And actually come in under this scheme. So in terms of net migration, the likelihood, if it operates as all the other schemes have, is that it will reduce net migration.
I think you're utterly trying to fool the British public once again. We know that Keir Starmer, all of you, wants to open the doors into Europe.
Tell me about
We cannot sustain any more mass migration into this country.
Of course, we're not talking about that. What I'm asking you to do is to analyse all the schemes that exist and to show me one aspect of them which it would, if it were continued into the new youth mobility scheme, if there were such a thing.
And why do we need another one? If we've got 12 schemes already, why do we need another one?
Because our young people want to be able to go and spend time working in Europe.
You just said we've got 12 schemes already.
Yes,
this is
with other countries.
This is another
the
example.
United States,
This is
Japan.
another example of where we are giving...
This is actually just getting worse, okay? The moment there's anything that has to do with people having access to come to this country, it's like, oh my God, they're going to have access to our NHS again. They're going to have access to our roads again. They're going to have access to our school again. They're going to have access to our benefits. Like, calm down, okay? Relax, okay? No one is coming in here and within 2 weeks, they're stealing everything you have, okay? That's not the case at all. Everything that they're saying right now, every single thing they're saying right now about the Brexit though, right? At the end of the day, they don't really care if it actually makes people's life easier. They don't care if it actually makes people's lives better. They don't actually care if it makes things cheaper for every single day worker. They don't care. But all they care about is not to be involved with the EU. Regardless, if it makes everyone's life more difficult. They don't care. They just don't want it. So weird. And then they try to use the idea of, oh, these people that are working, or, you know, it's not actually better for us. Like, no. Most people that voted for Brexit, you go check the surveys, most of them clearly are starting to have like real skepticism about the idea that Brexit will actually be good for them. But that's just my thoughts on the video. Remember, if you like the video, drop a like. It will be massively appreciated. Also, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. And if you have any disagreements, put it down in the comments below.